not to be ironic or whatever, but like they're trying to like go through time and like just like jump to a version of their universe that is like set up and ready to go. And
That's good. A
that
version of their universe that's good. I can't
yeah,
believe I didn't think of that
exactly.
joke.
They're just trying to go to a version of the universe that's good. Well, guess what? It doesn't exist on any timeline.
The DCEU multiverse is trash.
It's
All of
trash.
it.
Absolute trash.
Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we are reviewing The Flash, the movie, the 2023 movie starring Ezra Miller and directed by Andy Muschietti. Muschietti, who's directed the It duology, which like I actually had to look that up because I did not remember that. And that blows my mind for a few reasons that we'll get into later. This movie, we've been talking about this movie for what seems like a long time. Actually, we can confirm that. Let's go ahead and pull The Flash and reverse time to see what we said 1 week ago before watching The Flash. Hello and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And we're coming to you from the past. And just to prove it, I don't know how you prove it, but like, I don't know what's going on in the news right now. Donald Trump was just arraigned in Miami. Anything else?
Elon Musk something. Twitter.
Definitely Elon Musk something. That's how you know it's the past. So yeah, we're giving our reactions to The Flash before we see it. We want to do a little bit of contrast comparison. I'm mostly doing this because I'm going into this movie rather hopeful. But Nick, on the other hand, Nick, you've got some strong opinions. How do you think The Flash is going to be?
This is going to suck. This movie's going to suck. This is not going to be good. There is no way that this movie is good at all. And the whole Ezra Miller thing, like, it's DC. It's not going to be good. There's no possible way it's going to be good. My expectations are so low that you would think that I would walk out of the theater like pleasantly surprised. But I don't even think that's possible.
All right, we're back. Yeah, that was fairly consistent with where we are now, I believe.
Yep.
Nick, you are now on the other side of The Flash.
How
are you feeling?
So many feelings because I love being right. Who doesn't? But I was unfortunately way more right than I wanted to be. And I found out how right I was about 10 minutes into the film during the infamous baby scene. And that's about 10 minutes in or something. And when you find out that you're really right about a superhero movie that's going to really suck 10 minutes in and you can't walk out because you're with 3 other of your best friends who are in town visiting you, you really get a little upset at how right you were, because I had to sit there for 2 more hours and continue to watch an absolutely miserable film. So I have conflicting feelings on how I feel. I was unfortunately super right about it being super terrible.
I'm gonna get into how I feel about this movie, but like, I feel like there were 2 camps that I've seen online for this movie, and you were either in the camp of you agreed with what James Gunn said, which was this movie was the best, I loved this movie, or you were in the camp of this is the absolute worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And I feel like there aren't enough people for the camp that I feel I'm in, which is it's okay. I don't know. I honestly didn't think it was that bad. The amount of hate that I've seen online like truly perplexes me, but the amount of love that I've seen online for this movie also truly perplexes me. Because like, don't get me wrong, like I am in the opinion of I don't think this is a bad movie, but it's got problems. It's got issues.
It's got
that are hard.
issues.
that are hard to overlook. Nick, I do want to ask you this question before we like dig into anything though. You're not a big fan of the DCEU in general.
Well, yeah, they just shit the bed
but
completely.
but like, where do you put this movie as far as like the worst DCEU properties?
That's such a tough question. So
I feel like you had the same like emotional response to that as if I asked you your favorite Marvel films. You're like, oh, man, that's tough. I gotta think.
Definitely not going to go rewatch those movies to give you to try to figure out where this goes. It's just at the bottom. But the whole DCEU is at the bottom. The first 10 things on the list are just empty spaces of things I'd rather do besides watch a DCEU movie. I still have to do like a 15-second synopsis of this film.
Oh my God, that's so true. Okay, I'm going to do this one thing. You're going to react, and then we're going to do that.
Okay.
Okay. My top 3 favorite DCEU movies of all time: Wonder Woman, Justice League, the Snyder Cut, Flash.
Yeah, well, you're an idiot. So. The box office numbers speak for themselves.
Where's it actually with the box office? I don't know.
I think like Monday it was like 55 million or something. It was absolutely it was awful. It was atrocious.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, considering how much they were trying to pump that movie, yeah, that is pretty bad.
Yeah, they were talking like the Batman numbers or something. It's like the Batman made like 150 million plus on opening weekend. Like,
Spider-Man's got $500 million right now.
Yeah, Spider-Man is freaking incredible. I wish that I would have been able to review it with you, but I was on vacation. That is one of the best superhero films I've ever seen. Across the Spider-Verse. I can't believe how much better that was than the first one. And the first one was fantastic.
Do you think that this movie suffered at all? That it had to follow Spider-Man?
100%. Because I watched Across the Spider-Verse 3 days before I watched The Flash.
Oh God, brutal.
Brutal. And there's no comparison. Like The Flash is absolutely terrible. It's just like compared to. I mean, it's terrible.
I will agree with
compared
this.
To Across the Spider-Verse, it's like, what am I watching?
Yeah, no, it is a night and day experience as far as like trying to do an emotional multiverse story. You know, I do agree with that. But anyway,
let's get into it.
Nick, as you pointed out, you've got 15 seconds to sum up this movie that you hate. So I'm really eager to hear how many details you get correct on this. You ready?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even going to try, but now I am because you're really excited about it. So here we go. Hit me.
3, 2, 1, go.
The Flash goes back in time to save his mother and consequentially meets himself, who doesn't have his powers yet. First Flash loses his powers. Second Flash gets his powers. They have to figure out how to get back. They meet Zod. What the fuck? And I don't even care because this movie sucked.
1-0. Had 2 seconds, decided, nah, I don't care.
I had to finish my point.
Need it.
I don't care because the movie sucked. Like I had to end on that because truth.
All right, if I'm gonna grade that though, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like it was funny. It was funny.
Not my best.
Your heart wasn't in it. I'm gonna give you a C- for that one. Because I heard no mentions of Darkberry and very little Batman, if any.
Yeah, I know. I'm just still mad about wasting $20 and having to sit through the whole film. But we are going to talk about the whole movie.
Yes.
Including the parts that were cool, because there were some cool parts.
Let's start with the part that I think we're automatically going to have a disagreement on, the beginning. So I'm going to be honest. So the baby scene, I don't love, but I don't think I hated it either. And we'll get into that in a second. But the scene that I like automatically, I was like, whoa, maybe this movie does have some potential here.
Yeah.
Was when Barry is in Central City and he gets the call from Alfred that there is a problem in Gotham. And we go from the bathroom of this cafe sprinting across the country, following Barry. That was one of my favorite speedster scenes in all of cinema. Like that's a top 3 speedster cinema moment for me. That was a really awesome opening shot. I thought that the whole movie was going to be like that. And I honestly, that's actually some points off the movie for me, is that they never did anything like that again, unfortunately.
Yeah. The opening scene was really cool. obviously Alfred, and like I've been a fan of Ben Affleck's Batman. Like I
Mm.
think he plays Bruce Wayne really cool. I think they have a lot of similarities. Like uh and so it was cool that that's kind of how it starts with like this crisis thing going on. And that speedster scene was like pretty, it was pretty cool. It was okay. I don't know if I ever like settled into Ezra and like him being like, I know we've seen him as a Flash before, but there was just something about his performance that I just did not settle into. Like
No, a lot of people agree with
it
this.
just he just did not have it. Like, and I don't know if it's because he had to play two different versions of Barry or what, but like he just did not have it. And so I was constantly like thrown in and out of being into the movie, partly because of his performance, which is sad to say, because I think there's other films he's been really good in. Um,
Perks of being a wallflower.
but yeah, like top of list for sure. But yeah, that opening scene was really cool, and there was some hope there. Like right before the baby scene, it was like, okay, this is like, I had two thoughts. I was like, this is starting so chaotic, and there's like, they're not like, I just didn't expect it to start with chaos like that, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like this is like, I don't know if I was like, I think this is cool, but I'm also like, I don't know. And then like, of course, the baby scene comes, which then was like, okay, it's not cool. Like it's like this is ridiculous. Like before he even starts saving the babies, he goes for the vending machine, you know, which is just like, it's probably supposed to be funny. And I think I laughed, but I was also just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this is ridiculous. You've got 12 babies suspended in the air. And I think the issue for me was like, they went so big with that at the beginning, and the CGI really just wasn't there. And like, I didn't love how they like oriented the whole like Speed Force thing. Like I just didn't love the CGI of like when he's in the Speed Force and he's like moving so fast that everything's slow. I just didn't love how they showed any of that, and I didn't love it in the first 10 minutes, and it didn't look great. And then it's fucking babies. It's just like, what are they doing? Like when the scene started, I was like, even like regardless if these babies live or die, this is an awful way to start a movie. Like babies, like pick something else. Like
Yeah, if it was all puppies,
like,
it
come
might have
on,
been more
man.
might have been more digestible if it was all puppies. I want to back up for a second because you said something that I actually really appreciate. Um, in talking about the CGI, you specifically said I didn't love it, and the reason why I love that phrasing, Nick, is because in the discourse online about that scene, people are saying that the CGI of this movie is absolute garbage, which I have a disagreement about that. I don't think that the CGI was garbage because there are other moments of this movie, like the lightning surrounding the Flash, both
Mhm.
flashes, that looks amazing. It looks absolutely incredible. So I don't think that the CGI is trash throughout the movie. I think that what you referred to with the babies and in the Speed Force, I think they made an aesthetic choice. And actually, Machete has like confirmed this. They made an aesthetic choice to like make things look weird, like look a little off
Mhm.
uh from Barry's point of view while he's like using his Speed Force powers, right? And that's why like they look the way they do. But I agree with you. I don't think it's bad CGI, but that doesn't mean that the aesthetic choice that you made was a good one because I get what you might have been going for, but man, does it not look
Yeah, it's
good
like,
and does it take you out of the movie? I do
so
agree with
like,
that.
and I think another problem for me was that like the Flash TV show on CW, I actually really enjoyed. Like, and
Which
most of those,
also like ended this year, actually, strangely enough. Both
yeah,
both
like
like come to an end
it.
this year.
I haven't seen the full thing. I pretty much like never get past the Savitar season because that's like such a great season. And I think there's one more that I watched. I really like how they operate the speed stuff like there. It looks it like, you know, and when they're in the Speed Force, they look different. They're more cartoony and they're like, but the way that the show does it really fits, and it works. And they kind of like maybe try to do something like this with the movie, and they really like either should have went for it completely or like didn't do it at all. And it kind of looks like they tried to like aesthetically go halfway, and it was just like, what the fuck.
Also,
And
like
so
as
yeah,
far as I mean, as far as doing that scene goes, because like that scene, like with the babies, that kind of like speedster scene that's been listed the time in a bottle scene, referencing when Quicksilver does it for the first time in
yeah,
cinema, in Days of Future Past, right? And
right,
like we all agree that scene's great, you know.
yeah,
And they try to do it again in what is it? Age of Apocalypse? No, it's just Apocalypse, right? X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah. They tried to do it again in X-Men Apocalypse, and like it's still good and like at times like funnier, but like they tried to like up the ante, and it's like, oh well, you're going to the same
Right.
ranch again for the same cattle, right? Like we
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And like since then, it feels like anytime you have a speedster, well, you got to do the time in the bottle scene, which at this point I just kind of find annoying.
Did
Um,
Eternals do a time in a bottle scene? I don't think
they
so.
actually didn't, and that was something
Yeah.
about Eternals that I loved. We just got a
Yeah.
fast speedster. Anyway,
Very
back to time in the bottle scene, real quick, just on a final note. I totally get why people were into this scene. Going with babies was super extreme.
yeah.
And honestly, I feel like it was just them trying to one up the time in the bottle scene because I guess babies was the answer to that. I don't
Yeah.
agree with this choice. For reasons that you've already explained. It didn't bother me as much as other people, maybe because like I sort of saw it coming only because like someone ruined the baby in a microwave scene for me.
Mm.
So like as soon as the baby showed up, I was like, oh, okay, here comes the thing with the microwave. Weird choice to put a
God,
baby in a microwave.
dude.
Weird choice. Moving on. So I mean, this movie kind of takes us on the path of familiarity, at least if you're familiar with Flash from the show, in which his dad's been framed for murder of his mother. And I love that they actually do not ever reveal who murdered Nora Allen. Thought
Yeah.
that was a neat creative choice.
Yeah.
Leaves the door open later. I doubt that we're opening that door, but I thought that was a neat creative choice. Anyway, we meet Barry's dad. We get the classic "Go live your life." Barry's very upset as he relives the day that his mom is murdered, and then accidentally uses the Speed Force to travel back in time. And this is what you were talking about before about entering the Speed Force in whatever I think they call it a chronosphere. I don't know.
Yeah.
That one's new to me. Uh, and we get this really weird CGI of all these people.
Because you got
I
to have
like the
something
idea
to.
of it.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, and I think during that first scene, towards the end of it, you see the first glimpse of like a force ghost or whatever,
Hmm.
right? Which we know who that turns out to be. We can talk about that later, but um,
I was gonna take this into the next scene where he's talking to
yeah,
Bruce, but I just realized that we didn't talk about what I'm sure was probably actually, from what I'm gathering, probably your favorite scene or favorite stuff of the movie, which was watching what do they call him? Batkin? Batkin, is that his nickname? Batman? Ben Affleck?
no, it's
Batflack? Batfleck, right?
Batflack, Batflack.
Batflack, yeah. We got to watch Batflack at work, which like I kind of just wanted to watch a Batflack movie at that
Yeah.
point.
So this is my biggest problem with this film, and it has nothing to do with CGI, and it has nothing to do with how he runs, and it has nothing to do with the babies. My biggest problem is that the DCEU keeps doing this. They keep rushing their characters and their character developments in movies, and this is the main problem with Justice League, right? Like they introduced 3 new characters that no one's ever met, and you're just supposed to love them and like understand how they operate and all these things. I just wanted like a Flash movie. Like give me a good old it's a Flash movie. There's no one else involved.
Isn't it wild that of the Justice League members that we have in this established universe, that the only 2 members of the Justice League who do not have their own standalone movie are Cyborg and Batman? Isn't that
Right.
crazy?
Dude, that's a great point. The fact that like the Justice League version, the DCEU version, which is supposed to be this whole big built universe, doesn't have its own Batman films.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know it's bad. That's
Actually,
how you know the universe is bad.
it gets worse too because I believe I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly. The Robert Pattinson Batman movie that was supposed to be a Ben Affleck movie, but he decided he wanted nothing to do with the project,
Yeah.
and it sounded like he wanted nothing to do with the DCEU in general at that point.
Yeah, I think it was after the Batman vs Superman stuff, I think, or maybe it was after Justice
just
League,
after
where he just
Justice
like
League, yeah,
he changed his mind because of how bad the reviews were. I think he just got like discouraged or something. He was like, you know what, I'm out. And now I think he's like fully out
yeah.
based on how this film went. Which that's another confusing thing that was really funny and cool at the end, but like I don't know how they're going to pull that off going forward. Like it seems like now there's just more questions. I think you know what I'm
Right.
talking about. It's like, wait, that's not who that should have been based on like moving forward. It's
Right.
very stupid.
We'll
I don't think
cross that
Clooney. Yeah.
bridge.
Anyway,
We'll cross that bridge. I
let's
do want to like escalate things a little bit here because for a Flash review, we are taking our time.
yeah, we are really.
So I'm
let's
gonna
escalate.
yeah, I'm gonna speed things up here. And I'm going to, instead of going beat per beat, I am instead going to ask you questions just about the plot. The plot
Great.
being here, after Barry decides that he can change things, he does change things by making sure that his mom does have that tomato sauce. And in doing so, causes a chain reaction of events in creating a different universe in which he finds a much happier, wholesome version of himself that's not annoying at all. His mother's still alive, and a lot of other things are going wrong. Barry realizes that his actions have caused a cascading amount of effects, including no metahumans, just in time for the alien invaders from Krypton to be arriving on Earth with Zod ready to decimate the planet, similar to his plans in The Man of Steel. Barry goes on a recruitment mission to try and find Superman and Batman or the Justice League. Anyway, finds two iterations of them and gets them to help correct his mistakes. We'll get into the mistakes. But as far as this plot goes, Nick, I first want to ask you, what did you like about it? Because you said you liked something. You liked some things. What did you like about it?
Plot wise, I thought it was miserable overall. Like they brought back an old villain. The fuck are we doing? It's not even creative. It's lazy. It's fucking lazy.
You know what? I just remembered.
We're gonna start a thing and we're gonna have millions of people sign it. I want my fucking money back. Like this is terrible.
You know what I just remembered? We technically do in the DCEU, we do get a Flash villain, but he is not in the Flash movie, which is wild now that I think about it. Suicide Squad had Captain Boomerang in it. Which I'm not saying Captain Boomerang should be the main villain of this story, but it's wild to me that we have introduced a Flash villain into this universe, and he's not in the movie.
Flash villain in the universe, and he's not in the Flash movie. This is ridiculous.
That actually, now that you bring that up, that blows my mind.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think as this review goes, you're gonna come more on the side of this movie sucked. Like this is like
my score is ticking down the more I think about how disrespectful this movie is to the Flash.
Stupid. It's so bad because the Flash is one of my favorite characters ever. And they just sucked.
Give me some love. Give me some love before I ask you what you ultimately hated about like the plot beats. Give me some love.
So I did love the like seeing Michael Keaton as Batman again is awesome. Like he's like our Batman growing up, right? He's the first Batman we ever watched really like that we can remember. Like awesome, really cool. The original scene when he gets introduced is a little like Tarzan-y. It was a little weird because he had long hair and he's got no shoes on. I was like, this is a little, but the little battle they had was cool. The little fight they had was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is one of the reasons I love the Batfleck and now the older Michael Keaton is I kind of like seeing Bruce Wayne older after he's been like beaten down after years of fighting crime and all these things. Like that is a movie like that would be cool to see, you know? Which I thought we would maybe get Batfleck Joker, you know, back in the day. We thought we were going to get something like that. It would just be set more in the future, like he was an older Batman kind of deal, but we never really got that. So I mean, but this is the problem with the film too, right? Like my favorite, so the things I really liked were like not even Flash related. It was like I really liked seeing Michael Keaton. That was a cool thing. Supergirl, I thought she did really well. I thought the actress was pretty cool, and I thought the it was cool to see Supergirl. Like I thought that was great, but I also felt like it was just a leap. Like creatively, they're like, oh, we can't get Henry Cavill to do it because he's no longer our Superman, and we don't want to pay him. So let's just make up this quick little story on why there's a girl and there were two pods instead of one. You know, like that. Like, and we're just supposed to believe it because they're like technically like broke time. So now that means there's two pods and it's Supergirl instead of Superman. It's
Well,
like, no, it's
to
because
be
you
fair,
didn't
no,
want to
that
pay Henry Cavill to do it. Like,
I mean that's probably true, but like
like
to be fair, like Kara Zor-El's like origin story, like that is what happened. Like they took off at the same time, but her pod is delayed, or like his like goes through like a time warp. I don't know, something weird in comic books.
okay, so in the comic book lore, it's
It
actually
is
like pretty
legit,
accurate. Okay, great.
right? Even though I agree,
But
like what
for
you
the
said,
right,
it is
yeah.
probably accurate
For the
about
film, the
Henry
reason they
Cavill.
did it is because of they couldn't get Henry because like
Probably
they're not going to pay him $20 million to do this, and he's not Superman going forward anyway. I don't think, right? Like they're going to have to
no,
recast
that
him
is
too.
correct. And actually, to back up
So
your point, in the original Flash comic of Flashpoint, the plot beat of busting Superman out of prison, that is part of the original comic, and it is indeed Superman. Like it's an emaciated Superman,
so
not Supergirl.
they really like took a lot of liberties basically again. So
Yeah.
like, you know, and that's so I didn't love that, you know, like and those are little things that like I probably wouldn't have like cared about as much if like most of the film was okay, you know? But like the second that like they lose you early and you don't love how the film's going, you just start to think of other little things. Like I wouldn't have brought up the fact that they couldn't get Cavill to do it. I think seeing the young Barry lose control when he finds out that like he can't save Kara, that was kind of cool. Like watching him like basically like, no, I'm fast. I can run back in time and keep trying to save her. Like that was cool when like he just kept trying to save her and kept trying to save her. Was it her or Batman that he's trying to save?
Technically both of them, but like I
Well,
think
they were.
like I think
Well,
he's
yeah,
more
but
triggered by Kara.
yeah, he was triggered by
And
Kara, and as in the our Flash, it was more like dealing with the Batman stuff, I think.
right.
But like he's been very triggered by it, and so he keeps running back in time, and while doing so, like becoming, you know, Dark Barry, basically in some ways like Savitar, kind of, right? Like,
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
that's kind of what I was like. Okay, so is he Savitar? He's like they're showing him become Savitar, like they're just like it felt like they were trying like to just it was just maybe a little too many things they were trying to do.
So I loved a lot of the same stuff that you did actually. I thought I think you say her name like Sasha Kali. I think that's how you say her name. I'm not sure about that. The actress who plays Kara, I think she was great choice. I really liked her. As you said, Michael Keaton looks awesome. He is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's just such a good actor. The Ezra Miller duo, I was really impressed with his ability to convince me that I'm looking at two different Barrys, right? With like the way he acts. I think some people were really turned off by like how annoying other Barry is. And so that's a very purposeful choice, right?
Yeah.
And I like the range on him that he can do that, and they do feel like two distinct people, right? I'm not sure if that was the best choice to go with, mostly because like we need to feel bad for both of these Barrys, right? And like I sort of feel bad for Barry number one when he does the whole like monkey scene when you know he's yelling at other Barry about you threw darts at monkey. I don't think that
Right.
scene hits quite as effectively as they meant it to.
Yeah,
But
dude, little things like that, like just were like, this is so stupid. Like it
yeah,
was, they did
but
so
like
poorly with
that
some of
was
that stuff,
clearly
man. Like,
supposed to be a more emotional scene, and like you know you see perks of being a wallflower, and I know he can do it.
yeah, well,
So
it's
it was
writing in that case, you know. It's like,
right. So it's a little, yeah, I agree with that. It might be just a writer issue, because like there's really no follow up to that, because like the moment you see Monkey like on the dartboard, that's a trigger for the audience immediately. Like, oh, is that going to be an issue? And like maybe you forgot about it. I did, but when it comes
yeah,
back later, you're like, ah, yeah, Monkey. But then like there's no follow through with it, which is a little disappointing. Anyway, what I liked about it. So like I like that Ezra can do this. I wish it had been handled a bit differently, which is too bad because like I am impressed with his ability to act. I do want to say for anyone who is an anti-Miller fan, based on what little I know, I do not blame you. I don't really want to get into that on this podcast for the sake of this podcast. I'm simply reviewing his performance as an actor, not as a person. Just want to put that out there. Um, as far as the plot goes, it I'm like I've told you before, I'm gonna be a sucker for like almost any time travel movie, and like maybe that's why like I vibe with this a bit more. I mean, I will agree. I think as far as time travel movies, it's probably on the lower end. That's different than being a good DCEU film, and I'll get into that later. That's a lower standard
Lower
to
bar,
pass, a
much
much
lower
lower
bar.
bar, much lower bar. Um, but I liked the idea for this film, and I actually like after watching it, I actually liked the idea of using Zod. And maybe it's because like the DCEU was just so poorly constructed in general, but I think using Zod is a good idea because we need as an audience, if we're gonna do a timeline movie, we need to establish a timeline that's important for the movie, right? Important for the movie universe, but also that is relevant to us, the audience, right? And like if you're doing a fabricated universe, well, then the best way to do that is to use previous movies that we are familiar with, right? And
Right.
the thing that kicks it all off is, of course, the invasion of the Kryptonians.
Right.
And without metahumans, like this really is a pretty threatening and horrible situation. Like that is
Right.
an Armageddon situation. So I like that idea quite a bit. Michael Shannon's performance, I did not like quite a bit.
Yeah.
He really, I like Michael Shannon.
Me too.
Yeah, and man, was he phoning it in. Just like
Yeah.
the absolute minimum delivery.
Well, like it's like I think the thing I saw online that I sent you a couple weeks ago, where he was just like, "Yeah, I couldn't believe they asked me to come back as Zod because I died." Like, and like, so he clearly was maybe phoning it a little bit. Oh, you want to give me $20 million to play Zod for 30 minutes? Like, sure. Like, I
So
don't know
like,
what any of the pricing was, but
yeah, I mean,
I agree. I totally agree. It was just
yeah.
like, but that's a good point about you're making a good point about giving the audience a timeline that they can relate to based on the universe that we're in.
Right.
Which like that's a good point. And you're right about them having to use Zod because there really wasn't anyone else they could use. But it also goes back to my point about how they're lazy with storytelling and they're trying to play catch up with Marvel.
Yeah, poorly constructed.
Plus, what Marvel is on this whole multiversal thing now because they've been working on this for 15 years, 10 years to get us to this multiverse situation that we're now dealing with. And Sony is also doing it with Spider-Man, and it's huge for both of these studios. And DC is just like, oh, we're playing catch up, and we have to do a multiverse film now. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, it's the cool trendy thing is the multiverse.
They're like
we're getting
folding
so much
it all
multiverse
back into each other. They're folding it all back in because they were still trying to play catch up. So they're like, okay, now we got to do what everyone else is doing.
Well, like
so taking your time. Take your time.
Well, like, so I think when you're comparing it to the MCU, I think you got a point, right? And like they really did take their time, phases 1 through 3. And
yeah,
they told a pretty effective story. But I do want to bring up though, I don't think that you necessarily have to do it that way, right? I think that the first Spider-Verse film is proof that you actually don't necessarily need to do it that way. But where I think that movie succeeds, and like not even just The Flash, where most other DCU movies like fail, is the reason why that movie works, right? Even though we're incorporating a multiverse and many different Spider-Men, is that movie never loses track of the fact that yes, this is a Spider-Men movie, lots of different Spider people, but never loses track of the fact this is a Miles movie. And we keep the story really focused to Miles and like his development as a character and like the personal struggles he's going through. And that's why that movie works so well, Whereas to your point, this movie's sort of all over the place for a movie that is called The Flash. I really am talking myself down from this movie.
Yeah. But no, that is a fantastic point about Into the Spider-Verse. Like, and that's exactly the problem with The Flash and any of the DCU things they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to your point about going slow, even though that is a multiverse movie, that movie not across the Spider-Verse, the other one, Into the Spider-Verse, that movie goes slow in all the right places. Yeah. All the right places for Miles, like for us, like as the audience.
Get to know him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All the right places it goes slow. Right. You can build a multiverse quick if you have to, but like go slow with your characters. Let us earn, that emotional payoff.
Right. And you know what? Like going back to the Flash too, because now that we're talking a little bit more about the plot and stuff, like I honestly don't know why they had to have our Barry lose his powers. It seems it was really stupid in hindsight too. When you look back on it, it's just like, what was the point of this? There was no reason for him to also lose his powers. It would have been much cooler to have a training montage.
So I think there is a point, but it's too something that you said earlier that you're not gonna like. I think there is a point more than to have a moment with Supergirl. It is to do an origin story without doing an origin story.
Yeah. Oh God.
They're shoehorning it in, right? Like
yeah. Fucking A. The fucking shoehorn.
Which now that you bring up a training montage, I actually now wish that we had gotten that.
That would have been fucking cool. Yeah, that would have been fucking cool. It's like, oh shit, like older Barry is teaching younger Barry how to be the Flash. That's like 15 or 20 minutes right there of awesome fucking scenes.
And like that in and of itself is a paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, you know what it is? It's that scene from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry says, I knew I could do it because I had already done it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like, yeah. Like would have been way cooler than like our Barry just like trying to electrocute himself and it being totally ridiculous. And then like he dies, but oh no, wait, Kara's going to get him closer to the lightning. like what?
I actually didn't understand the logic of this either. I was like, why did the original like experiment work with one lightning strike through somebody else's body?
Right.
Whereas the second experiment doesn't work with one lightning strike, needs two. What? That was dumb. I do agree with that.
Because now they're trying to like make us make it sound like they're going to kill him. You know, like they're going to kill him.
Totally
or
fabricated suspense.
Look, just fucking kill him then. Like that would have been interesting if the original Barry dies. That would have been interesting, you know. But like that's not canon.
That actually was that would have been super interesting.
That would have been super interesting, but it's not canon. I don't believe, unless there's a Flash story I'm not aware of, which there's very possible. You're the comic.
Sort of. So like there is a time where Barry just disappears for like a long period of comics. He's just gone.
Interesting. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just, like you said, fabricated, like suspense. Like, come on. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's like not for a moment do we believe he's dead.
Yeah. And then also, I guess because we're kind of on this already, like it also totally kind of sucks that they killed, like that they did kill Kara and our Batman. Like you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah,
guys.
the two things that we genuinely love about the movie.
Two things that we actually liked, they decided to kill, like which like based on their explanations, it makes sense. But when the film is that bad, now you're just pissing off the audience even more at the end of the film. Like you're not even gonna.
So I don't have any way of confirming this right now. I read somewhere that the ending of this movie changed. And I'm not sure if it was under James Gunn's decision making. I don't think he was that powerful at the time. I'm really not sure. Anyway, the ending of this movie changed. And originally, Kara and Michael Keaton Batman were not supposed to die. Or I guess they were supposed to like survive at the end of all of this. And I'm not sure if the idea was for them to go on, continue playing these characters in like the new Flashpoint universe, right? From what I was gathering, it sounded like that was the play. But that's clearly not what's happening because of what the ending of this movie is. And we'll get to that in just a moment. I do want to ask you first, because we sort of got into it, the twist. So the twist, as you pointed out, is Barry 2 becoming Dark Barry. And we come to find out that this, it's funny that you said the time ghost, because I thought the same thing. I thought when we first saw him, I was like, oh, it's got to be a time ghost. And no,
right.
It's Barry 2 becomes Dark Barry. You were talking about like the effects of Barry 2 becoming Dark Barry, and you thought that was interesting. But what did you think of the twist itself? That he is that dark entity.
I mean, I think it surprised me a little bit, but like I knew it was him the second that Barry had the same stuff sticking out of him in the same ways that Dark Barry did. Right. So like when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, that's him. And I kind of liked it. Like I liked the twist.
This is a part of the twist that I don't like. So we get to this part, right, where Barry 2 is traveling over and over and over again, and Dark Barry emerges, and it slowly dawns on Barry who this dark entity is. And then Barry 2 shows up, and then like he also starts putting it together, right?
Yeah.
And Dark Barry says that like he's figured out how to like get everything to go his way, and he's got
Right.
to get rid of Barry 1, um, which is interesting for reasons I'll bring up in a moment.
Right.
And in this moment, Barry 2 decides that he has to save Barry 1 and like sacrifices himself. And Dark Barry kills Barry 2, and this eliminates both of them. Right. And then
Right.
Barry is allowed to return things to the way they were by traveling back into the past and putting the tomato sauce like back on the shelf, which was genuinely, I think, a moving moment. I think that was actually the best acted scene of the whole movie. Um, Anywho, the part that doesn't make any sense here to me is the logic of Dark Barry and ultimately what happens in this scene. I feel like the movie does not follow its own logic in this particular scene. It genuinely doesn't make sense to me unless I totally missed something. And correct me if I did. So Dark Barry is going to kill Barry, right? And from what we've come to learn about the whole continuity of it all and what Barry was afraid of, if he never got his powers, does that mean if Barry 2 never got his powers, does that mean Barry 1 wouldn't get his powers, right? Like that's established way in the beginning. And then Dark Barry is going to eliminate original Barry. But if Dark Barry eliminates original Barry, won't that just get rid of Dark Barry as well? Well, maybe not, because I guess Barry 2
No,
is the
because
paradox. Barry 2 is the
time.
paradox.
Yeah, I think it has to do with how time works,
Yeah.
which is technically
Right. Dark Barry is related to Barry
linear.
2, but he's not related to Barry 1, which is an interesting concept. Okay, fair. All right. So that one doesn't work. However, this is the part that I genuinely could not get over, which was he slays Barry 2. Why doesn't Barry 2 heal? Barry 1 even says, "You're going to heal. It's going to be fine." And then Barry 2 just shakes his head and then he dies. And it's like, wait, what's the reason for Barry 2 not healing here?
Damn, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. I think I was so done with the movie already because at that point, had we already seen the other Flash universes pop up, or was that after?
No, I think it was, yeah, at that point we had already seen them, which, yeah, we didn't talk about.
At that point, like what you're talking about, like logic's gone. And now we've seen Nick Cage as Superman, and we've seen fucking what like
Oh, it's Christopher Reeves. We saw Christopher Reeves.
We've seen all the Supermans. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait, why did they show the Supermans and not Flash?
Yeah,
it had to do with Kara?
Yeah. We saw 2 different Superman, and then we saw the original Supergirl, right?
And we saw some Flash stuff, original Flash stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. We saw Jay Garrick Flash. That's true. I forgot about that.
Bro.
But there is no Jay Garrick Flash in any cinema, to my knowledge. So like
it's so
doesn't hit.
There's not in cinema, but in TV show.
Yeah, in the TV show. But like, it doesn't hit the same way, seeing like Charles Xavier in Multiverse of Madness does, like
or Across the Spider-Verse when they're showing us all the canon events, which was fucking awesome, which I watched 4 days before, and then all of a sudden I'm watching this bullshit on screen in the Flash. I'm just like, what is this shit? Like, this is so poorly done. Like, yeah, the movie like ends basically, right? Like Barry 2 dies, Dark Barry dies.
We come to find out that this is not quite the same. Like when Barry returns after having like a touching goodbye with his mom,
right?
We come to find out that, or at least we think at first, that maybe Barry did change something because Barry's father looks up at the security camera.
Right.
Really, what this indicates is Barry's actually not in his correct universe, right? Which does raise the question of, well, where is the Barry of this universe?
Oh, wait.
Whatever.
Okay, so this is interesting. But real quick, I will agree with you, though, that I thought the scene at the end where he says goodbye to his mom was like really sweet. Or like really well acted, and like that was probably like you said, the best film in the best scene in the film. I don't is that like what everyone's saying online, that he's actually not in his correct universe? Because my take was that
he
changed it.
So I think at first that's what we were led to believe, is that he changed it, right? But then
it was like a mini loophole. to make his dad look up at the camera.
Right. I like at first, I think that's what they meant for us to think at first. But then when we see that Bruce Wayne is not played by Ben Affleck and instead George Clooney,
right?
I thought that the implication there was Barry is not in the correct universe.
See, my take on that was that he changed one little thing. And it does, even that has some slight ripple effects.
Slight ripple, possibly. I mean, honestly, like, who the hell knows? Yeah, like, if they even have a choice, right?
The fact that, like, so just from like seeing Clooney, I was like, holy shit! Like, we were all laughing. We were, this is awesome. Like, that was probably the highlight of the film. Just seeing unexpectedly watching Clooney get out of that car.
Yeah,
as Bruce Wayne.
Genuinely did not see that coming.
That was cool. That was probably my favorite part of the whole goddamn thing.
The end.
But well, definitely, because it ended, right? It was like, but then that's stupid because I mean, that's definitely what they, most likely that's what they did, but that's dumb.
they were just shoving more cameos in, right?
It's dumb. Like getting one more cameo in because you're going to change Batman anyway, so you might as well. That sucks. It does. But it was cool to see Clooney, but that's
the thing. That's the thing, right? Like, it only has a one-time effect on you, right?
Right.
Like that, there is no longevity to a choice like that. Like, when it happens, you're like, that's amazing. But then, like, every time after that and forever now, because like there's sure to be more Batman movies after this.
Right.
You're like, well, that was kind of dumb that they did that. And like, for those who don't even like know those movies, like, or never will watch those movies, right? The Batman Forever series, Forever, right? That series, right? And if they ever come to watch this movie, they'll say, why was there just some old guy at the end of this movie?
Right.
You know, which sinful.
Yeah, because
you know who George Clooney is.
Anyone like 23 and under probably has. There's a good chance they've never seen those movies, right?
No, I would say a high chance. Yeah, high chance.
Like, so stupid. Like, they're making such dumb decisions, and I don't even know if James Gunn can get him out of this bullshit. He needs to reset everything. Like, actually, like, I want origin stories for everyone from the ground up. Like, that's the kind of reset they need, and they won't do it. They won't do it. But it's the only way out. But
we need bold strokes.
All right, let's get these damn ratings done.
Yeah, let's score this. So I've gone down in my score. I'm still not in terrible territory. I'll tell you where I was and where I'm at. I was ready to come at this movie with a 3.5, which is about
God.
Yeah. For the record, that's about where I was for Ant-Man, I believe.
Which is egregious, sir. This is nowhere near as good as Ant-Man. Quantumania was a masterpiece compared to this film.
All right, let's not say anything we might regret.
I don't regret that.
I think I enjoyed this movie more, like, as I was watching it in the theater as compared to like Ant-Man. However, like, just going over like different problems, like, as I'm thinking about it more and more afterward, gonna bump this score lower to about a 3. It's gonna sit solidly as a 3 for me. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's got problems.
5. That is such a nice score. It's crazy.
At the end of the day, it's got problems. Ezra's got problems. There were some stylistic choices that I don't like. Something that I do like about this movie, though, is I like that it's an origin without an origin. I really like what the heart of this movie is, which is, even though there is a message to this movie that is a bit shoehorned, which is some questions don't have solutions, right? Or some problems don't have solutions, right? That's a bit shoehorned. And like, the moment Nora Allen drops that line, you're like, oh, okay, that's going to be like the thesis of this movie, which, like, that sucks to see that coming, right? Because like, that could be pretty powerful if you don't. I do like that that's the thesis of the movie. I just wish it wasn't shoehorned. I like that Barry is ultimately the villain. He's the hero and the villain of his own story. I like that even though it's like this massive multiverse story, it is internalized into that. And I think that's a really good idea. Do I think that they execute it well? No, probably not. And like, it breaks its own logic as far as like movie logic goes, right? And like, that's important. You need to be able to follow through on what you're saying you're delivering, right? And it does not. And wow, and now as I'm even saying this now, I kind of want to go lower than a 3. 2.9. 2.9's the lowest I'll go. 2.9.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Joe, you got to be in the 2s. You got to be in the 2s. There's no way this movie is a 3. 3 is like for like
I
Like,
enjoyed myself too
three
much.
to 4, 3 to 3.6 is like decent, solid film. This is not that.
Right. The problem is I can't go lower than that because like I actually did enjoy myself in the theater like quite a bit, especially when like Michael Keaton's on, right? So like I can't go lower than that. And like I said, I do love what, even though it does lose it at times, I do love what the heart of this movie is. And that's what I'll say. 2.9.
2.9. All right. Well, obviously this is much higher than my score.
Oh boy. Oh my God. How close to 0 are we getting?
I'm like, do I save room for a worse film down the line? Or is this like the peak of terrible superhero films that I'll ever watch?
Oh,
I'm gonna give this a 1.5.
wow.
This is 1.5 stars.
This is punishing.
This is 1.5 out of 5. This movie was not good. It had many, many issues. It had the best parts were not even related to the Flash. DC is really just Warner Brothers and DC, whatever, have just not done a good job. They've not done a good job. And I'm very skeptical. I hope James Gunn can turn it around. But like, I don't often want to walk out of a movie 10 minutes in. I wanted to do it 10 minutes in. I wanted to do it 40 minutes in. I wanted to do it an hour and a half in. And I damn sure did it before the extra credit scene because I'm not sitting through credits for a movie that was terrible. I really often don't wish I didn't spend $20 on something because it's like, $20 is not the end of the world. But like, I honestly, like, I'm really pissed that I gave the theater $20 to go watch this. Like, I could have waited a year and watched it for free on HBO. Not even. It probably was going to be on HBO in 4 months or less because it didn't even do well this weekend. So they're going to rush that thing through probably. Should try to get some kind of hope out of it. It really is just disappointingly bad. And yeah, that's it. 1.5 out of 5. I'm leaving room at the bottom.
You know what's crazy? We both gave low scores. We've both given our lowest scores for any project so far. And yet, even though both those statements are true, this is the widest discrepancy we've ever had on a movie.
This is. Normally we're pretty
close usually.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
And but it is the lowest score we've given each film. But you just had more fun in the theater.
I did.
And I think part of that is because you had a little hope. But I don't know. That can go both ways. Like,
it can, because the
hope that
kill you.
The hope that kills you, Joe. It's the hope that kills you. And I went in there with like, this is going to be terrible, and it was worse than terrible. I was like, holy shit, man. That's a review.
That's the review. I don't think we got much more to say than that. Except for hopefully we're gonna have some stronger opinions and some stronger hopes. I'm excited. I'm actually genuinely excited to start watching Secret Invasion with Samuel L. Jackson.
I'm stoked.
Crazy that we're over 15 years into the MCU and this is the first project starring Samuel L. Jackson. Super hyped to see it. So that will be our next episode next time on May the Review Be With You.
Peace. Sorry.
You're getting bad. Worse and worse with that.
My bad. I forgot that I say peace at the end.
What did you think my eyes like getting as wide?
I'm pretty sure you usually do something else before I say peace, but anyway, whatever.
No, I think you're right, because like it actually did feel like I was missing something. I was like, did I say something here? I don't know.
I think you said something else. I don't know. It's fine.